afternoon. Let's talk about lending money, and something you might have done many times. You either lent it or you've borrowed it from someone that you know. It just happens. It's a fact of life. It could be a relatively small amount just to get through to the next payday, or it could be something bigger. You could be looking at a house deposit, although it could just as easily be some money to help buy a car, or stepping in when someone close to you needs medical equipment that they would otherwise have to do without. Or maybe someone starting a business that the cash flow is a little bit light on in those early days. It's a common complaint. Things can get extremely complicated, though, if conditions change for either side of this transaction, the lender or the borrower. And Tim Dean from Credi says that he's out to help with the running of what he calls the Bank of Mum and Dad. And he's here with you this afternoon. Hello, Tim.
Hey, Pat, how are you?
Well, thanks. What made you think that there's a need that's not being met in this area?
Well, about 2 years ago, I found myself in the position of being the bank of mum and dad to my own kids. You know, with a 24-year-old at university, I was always on the receiving end of that phone call. Dad, can you help out? And, you know, I always knew how much money he wanted or how much the problem was by the pause before he got into the conversation. So, you know, long pause, I knew I was in for a bit of a hard ride. So I also found that those conversations were hard, they were difficult, and especially, you know, post lending my son or sons some money, if there were any speed bumps, again, if he had a problem with repaying me, he wouldn't call, I wouldn't speak to him. So there was a kind of an element of emotional stress associated with it. And my choice as a parent was I want to help my kids out financially, but I also wanted to lend them money, you know, at absolute dad's rates. And in reality, I was intended and actually let them off. I just wanted them to, you know, own up to the arrangement and at least have a good go at it. So I was looking around the marketplace, and I just couldn't find anything that did it. You could download a contract, that's a bit formal. I could send emails, they get a bit confusing. So I went looking, and, you know, like all big ideas, it kind of ran away with me, and I've ended up 2 years later launching Credi.com, which, you know, as we say, we are aiming to power the so-called bank of mum and dad. Okay, so if you're not looking at a contract then, what do you think is the right way to go? And obviously this isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all, but for your personal preferences anyway, what sort of arrangements might make this a little bit more formal without going over the top? Well, okay, so I think that's the point. I mean, we did a lot of work with RMIT pre-launch, and what we realized very quickly is, firstly, the size of the market is huge. It's billions of dollars. And Hession, which is a study by CBA in 2012, even put the figure at a couple of $1 billion between mates in Australia every year, and that was a while back. But what I discovered was that it was the lack of a contract that just led to disputes. It led to uncertainty, and rather than going down a hog of getting a contract from a sort of template law firm, if I could put a platform together that could allow you to simply set up an agreement that could then be passed between known parties. We're not trying to create a market for this. We are documenting and managing existing transactions between existing people. Then we can manage the negotiation. People could say, oh, I can't help, or I can help a bit more, or I can help a bit less. But we could sort of take that narrative kind of off the personal communications and to put it kind of in the cloud. And then obviously if people want to help out, we can then drop that into a legal document which will stack up. And, you know, as we're seeing quite a lot in the press with the housing market being funded for first-time buyers by the Bank of Mum and Dad, you know, there's a lot of narrative about undocumented loans being argued as gifts. Well, you know, if relationships suffer, partners split up, the lack of that documentation can actually end very badly. So a simple structure with a document in place between the two parties does two things. One, it formalises it, because there's nothing actually ever informal about lending money. It becomes very informal. But also, its very existence probably heads off a problem down the track. Yeah,
well, I'm wondering how much potentially is it going to help out by addressing some of those questions before you even get into the arrangement in the first place, and maybe head them off well before they could even become an issue later on.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, You know, we run a lot of our business on sort of stories. Everyone has a story, and I think I haven't met anyone who hasn't been touched by a relationship loan, whether it's from their parents or from friends or colleagues. And there are some, quite nightmarish stories that are out there. I mean, there's been some sort of quite sort of high-profile cases in New Zealand and, in fact, in Queensland where, families have fallen out. And, a simple document in place would simply have taken that away. But, would an individual go to a lawyer and perhaps extend, a couple of $100 for a sort of a time in front of a lawyer? Would they download a document and fill it in and then send it to somebody? If it gets too hard, people put it off. But I think not documenting these transactions, whether it be for a car or for deposit on a house or to start up a business, not documenting those transactions is just putting the relationship at risk.
Yeah, okay. Do you see a day where this is going to become a bit more simple in general, that, we're not going to have to worry about this, that some of these problems might solve themselves? Maybe technology, we don't have to worry about money so much. It's all going to be documented before we even start off.
I don't know. I suppose I'm just dealing with what I see in front of me, and I'm seeing the banks and the financial institutions having a part to play, but I'm also seeing family money being very used. We did a number of workshops prior to launch, and it was the usual 20 to 25-year-olds discussing their attitudes to banks. And in fact, what I found was they see banks as obviously solid, reliable, and part of the piece. But they also saw that their parents, and in fact even their friends, became the go-to lenders. And the amount of lending between mates and from parents is growing. I suppose let me illustrate a number for you. At the moment we're seeing a trend. When we started the process out about 2 years ago, the evidence was saying 25% of deposits for first-time buyers is provided by the Bank of Mum and Dad. Press stories and reports that are being published today say that figure's nearer 50%. So, from where we sit at the moment, that is a growing trend. And as I said, without a platform, it's support that's been given, but putting some downside risk in place. Whereas, with a platform like Credi, those risks can just go away, and people can then get on with their relationships.
Okay, well, let's hope that's the way it can work out, getting on and continuing to get on in the future. Tim, great to talk to you this afternoon. Good luck with it.
Well, many thanks, and thank you.
Tim Dean, who's the CEO of Credi, giving you some ideas about at least things to discuss if you're looking at entering into any of these relationships, these arrangements when you're looking to borrow or to lend some money to friends and family, people who are close to you. Let's have a quick catch-up with Ron from Guru's, called in on 1300 630 222.